This is MOMAKKI, and you are watching another episode of Studio Time. Today we're going to talk about what I use in my signal chain on audio vocals. Let's get into it. Alright, so we're going to get straight into it. So this is a rap song, so we are going to go straight to the vocals, and I will let you hear what we're going to be working on today.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know.
So keep in mind what you heard right there is everything with the effects on it, the processing, you know, all that good stuff is on there. So I'm going to let you hear before and after. Now, take note, you do want to have on proper headphones when listening to this on YouTube, or else you're not going to hear, you know, the effects or anything going on. It'll be slight if you're listening to it in a car or whatever. But if you're in the studio or you're listening to headphones, you'll be able to hear everything just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and disable everything that I got going on and take the tape machine off so you can hear the difference.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
All right, I'm gonna cut it all back on.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
So you hear it's a lot brighter. A lot of the lower frequencies have been ducked out of there. So let me show you what I got going on. So on the tape machine here, I am using the good old Studer A800, and I don't think I have a particular setting on the vocal. No, I just have it on default right now because the tape machine just sounds good in default. So let me take everything else out and let you hear what it sounds with and without the tape machine.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low.
It just gives it that saturation and makes it sound a little bit chunkier. So you can go from -12 to +12, and I'm probably right at -1 here as far as the saturation is concerned. And I'll move this around to let y'all hear what it sounds like, you know, for extreme saturation, and then like -12 on the saturation.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes we gotta destroy.
All right, so moving on down the chain, next thing I have here is a de-esser to get rid of all the plosives and S sounds.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
That's without. Right along.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
So it takes a whole lot of those S's, it knocks them down. You can see it in the graph chart. When you see the red, it's ducking it down.
Sometimes
right
the
here.
Vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
All right. Moving on down. We got one of my favorite plugins, which is the Channel Strip 2 from SSL. I actually have the UC1 here, and that's how I'm controlling this. Oops. That's how I'm controlling this. So if I move the knobs on the actual hardware, it moves on the plugin. So this section here, of course, would be the EQ section. For y'all that are familiar with an SSL board, this is pretty much the same kind of setup. I have it on E, EQ is on. And then on this side, we have our dynamics, which are our gates and expanders, our compressors. So we'll play it with the Channel Strip 2 off.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
With it on.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes.
So it's making it a lot brighter. As you can see here, I'm bringing it up on the highs, the mids, and the low mids. And then on the lows, I'm cutting it down by about 4 decibels on 85 hertz there. So it just brightens it up a little bit. Moving on to the next plugin in the strip here, we got good old smart compressor. I'll play without.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
With it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes we gotta destroy.
So you can hear it, it's gluing it more to the track than without it. Without it, it's kind of standing way out. With it engaged, kind of puts it more in the track. And moving on to good old Fab Filter. I got this on dynamically cutting at 586 hertz. So it's just cutting at that frequency. It's also dynamically cutting on the lows and the highs as well. And this was like a problem frequency for me when I brought it up. And you'll be able to see it once I play it on the analyzer.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K.
So you see where it's kind of thick right here?
Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know.
So what this is doing is cutting at these frequencies, but not throughout the whole song. It's dynamic. So whenever those frequencies get a little too rough and raunchy, this kind of ducks it out. So it's not doing it for the whole song, because I don't want those frequencies cut the whole song. They don't sound bad. It's just when they get to a certain point, they're a little too harsh. So all this is doing is just dynamically moving, and as soon as it sees it peak beyond a certain threshold, it goes down or brings those problem frequencies down. So let's listen to it with it or without it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes.
And I'll play it soloed so that you can hear it a little bit better, but I never do this when I'm actually mixing, because and I know some engineers do, they solo things and fine tweak them, and you know, if that works for them, that's fine. But for me, that doesn't really work. Because I like to hear stuff in context. If I'm changing something while it's soloed and, you know, I'm making all these changes trying to get it perfect, well, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be perfect when the music starts playing, because maybe those frequencies I took out were actually needed when the song is playing because of all the other different frequencies, you know, that are playing with it. So I like to do stuff in context, meaning, you know, I like to make my moves with the music playing. But just for this purpose, I'll let you guys hear it soloed with and without.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
Without.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
So to me, it's kind of crunchy without it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes we gotta destroy in order to grow. Sometimes it's better to be shown than on your own.
All right. So far we got, you know, the Studer A800 on there, tape machine. We have a de-esser, which is the Lindell 902 de-esser. The SSL channel strip 2. Smart limiter, or I'm sorry, smart compressor. And then Fab Filters Pro EQ3. And then on effects, I got the reverb 1 and 2 and delay. Now these reverb, or this first reverb here, is one of my favorite reverbs, Capital Chambers.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K.
And I got it on setting 4.
Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know.
Sounds so plain without it.
Sometimes we gotta destroy in order to grow. Sometimes it's better to be shown than on your own.
It's got a good tail on it. I love this particular reverb right here. I use it on pretty much every vocal. I've tried to use other reverbs, and I'm known for using a lot of different reverbs, but this one right here is my go-to. And then the second reverb that I have it working on is actually the Smart Reverb.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5
and let me
below.
solo it.
Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know.
It just puts that extra sweetness on it. These reverbs are so cool because all you have to do is hit vocals. You hit this button here and it plays, it processes it, and it gives you a room that they, you know, the algorithm thinks that it needs best. And then you can go from there and tailor it however you want. But to be honest with you, every time that I've hit the button and it goes through, it works out lovely. So this one's pretty dope. I love this reverb too.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be
when you need that extra, you know what I'm saying, that extra something, this one to get it for you.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know.
And then the delay that I am using is the Timeless 3 from FabFilter. I love this delay. It is the best delay out of all the delays that I've ever used because it is awesome. All right, let me play it. And I will solo this. 1 sec.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low.
So I have it really light, so it's not making major like echoes or time delays or nothing like that. But if I cut it up, you'll be able to hear it a little bit better. Let me bring this up.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always know. Sometimes we.
So it's a pretty cool effect right there. It's I think I didn't use a default on this. I pretty much tailored the knobs how I wanted them.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low.
So it's really subtle what the Timeless is doing on this particular song. And that's because I wanted the vocal to stand out more than anything rather than having effects on it because of the content of the song. Looks like I have parallel compression.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low.
That parallel compression is going to this Vox parallel comp right here. And on it, oh, I have the beast on this bad boy. Looks like I also have the channel strip 2 on here doing some work for that parallel comp, bringing up the highs and high mids again, a little cut there on the low mids, and then on the distressor, that bad boy is in nuke. So everything is really hard right now, damn near turned all the way up, and it sounds disgusting by itself. I'll play it by itself so you can hear.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5.
Super squashed and super crunchy. So that's the main point of parallel compression, is to bring that in subtly on the main vocals. On this one, I believe I cut it up pretty high because it just made it sound really, the vocals sounded really good right there. So it's just all about personal preference. Usually I'm probably going to be down here as far as where the fader is on bringing in this parallel compression, but for this one it sounded good, and I'll play it and take it away so you can hear it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe.
I still got it solo. Let me solo both of them and then take it in and out.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
That's with it. Here's without.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
Now it sounds too crunchy by itself, but when you play it with the track. All right, so we're gonna play it without.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
All right, playing it with it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
The presence is crazy in the difference. I'm gonna play it again.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below.
See what a difference that parallel compression makes? It's crazy. So yeah, if you don't know about parallel compression, definitely try this trick. Put it on your syn, you know, and then the syn is basically routed to this. Now it's not just the distressor that's doing that. You know, it's also EQ'd and compressed over here again. So it's getting squashed like really hard. You know what I mean? Distressor is already in Newt, and then with the SSL channel strip 2 on there with compressor settings and EQ settings as well, it sounded great. Oh, not only that, I did not even realize that I had an ATR 102 on here, which is another tape machine, and I'll pull it up real quick. Here we are on the parallel compressor channel. So at the top here, I had another tape machine. I didn't even realize I had that one on. It's been a while since I went back to this track. I mixed this one a while back. So let me pull it up. This is the Ampex tape machine. I have vintage telephone cell. So there's a lot going on here, man. So not only is it being crunched hard by the distressor, but we also have vintage telephone call on the tape machine. And it sounds like an old telephone, so it makes it even more crunchy. So without this, let's play it.
Sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go.
And with it,
sometimes the vibe be up, the vibe be low. Sometimes I'm 5K up or 5 below. Sometimes I'd rather stay, but got to go. Sometimes I never know, I always...
It just really thickens it up. So that's basically my chain for this particular vocal. My chains never stay the same. I pretty much do a chain that works good for the song. And this particular song, this kind of style, you know, it's a more laid back, more acoustic sounding kind of vibe or whatnot. So I wanted the vocals to be a little more present. So, you know, we got 2 tape machines going on. We got parallel compressors squashed into the nuke realm. There's a lot going on this. But I mean, it works. You know, it got the vocals thick, just where I wanted them, placed just nice. So, you know, when you're doing this kind of thing, a lot of people like to use, you know, presets and templates. Just remember, don't always stick to those templates, because that particular template might not work for the song that you're on. Like if this was a bright and bouncy song, I would never use any of that on this particular setup. So just don't get comfortable if you're a new engineer, or even if you're a, you know, a seasoned engineer, don't get comfortable with a certain way of mixing vocals, because you never know what's going to sound better on a song if you don't try other things. And you're not going to know, you know, you're not going to get that experience to know, okay, I know exactly what's going to sound good on this particular song if you're sticking to a template the whole time. Anyway, this is Mo Mackey. You're watching Studio Time. I hope you learned something today, as I've learned something today, because I forgot that I did that on this chain. Y'all have a good one. I'll catch you on the next one.